Okay, so in this session, we are going to talk about the corporate scandals related to transfer pricing. So if you take the first corporate scandal related to transfer pricing, so corporate scandal related to transfer pricing. So the first one is Australia versus Rio Tinto. So in there, what has happened? So in this case, what has happened in brief, like they have planted their commercial center. They have planted their commercial center in Singapore, and they have done some transfer pricing transaction between Australia and Singapore, right? So they also had an agreement with Singapore. They also had an agreement with Singapore government to avoid this double taxation. To avoid double taxation. But anyhow, what has happened? But anyhow, they manipulated the tax policy of Australia. So spellings you have to rectify Australia Tax Office. So at the end of the period, they had to settle all the tax which they had to settle. So that means avoided, which they have avoided so far with the penalty payment, with the penalty payment, right? So they have planted their commercial center in Singapore, and they have done some transfer pricing transaction between Australia and Singapore. They also had an agreement with the Singapore government to avoid double taxation. But anyhow, they manipulated the tax policy of Australia tax office. So at the end of the period, they had to settle all the taxes which they had avoided so far with the penalty payment. So this is simply what has happened in this case. And then the next case is there is another case, Nirupama Rajapaksha and Pandora paper. So they have started an offshore company, right? Both of them, and they have started to invest their money in foreign luxury apartments, right? Um, and in 2011, like if I remember, their income was around 16 US dollars million, right? So you can find the rest of this case from the internet, right? Okay, so this is the end of the transfer pricing corporate scandal session.